Hi, I'm Bill Phillips, and I'm the creator of Lil Devils Fender Flares. You're watching this video because you either got my flares in the mail or you're considering getting them and you'd like to know how they're put on the car. I designed these because of the horsepower of the Hellcat. Getting to the ground adequately wasn't available, and no other Fender Flares like it were being produced in the market. We recommend that you take these to your local body shop to have them painted or installed. However, we created this video as a step-by-step guide for you to install them yourself if you choose to. But before that, let's go over all the parts you should have received and the tools you're going to need to install these flares. These are the tools that you will need to do the work, and these are the components that we provide. There's actually not that much needed. Here's the bag that comes in the box. These are the following components that come in that bag. 10 plastic screw head rivets, 6 compression fittings, 4 button head bolts for the front fender flares, 2 longer button head Allen head bolts that replace the 2 front fender bolts, the compression tool that we provide, and the 2 Allen wrenches that we provide. Here are the tools that we don't provide: an impact wrench, a drill with a 5/32 bit, a ratchet with an Allen head attachment, a 1/4 inch ratchet with a 7mm socket, a 4mm T-handle, an 8mm open end, a 10mm open end, and a 13mm open end, and a soft rubber mallet. Okay, if you're ready, let's do this. The first step is rim and tire removal. Now, you can do this with the rims and tires on the car. We recommend removing them. For our video, we've put the car up in the air so you can better see how we install these flares. Step 1 is removing the rims and tires. Remove as many rims and tires as possible. Rims and tires can be removed one opening at a time or all at once. This is recommended but not required to install the flares. It is possible to install the flares without removing any of the rims and tires. Step 2 is preparation to install the rear flares. We're going to remove the plastic rivets and prepare to install these on your car. We're going to be removing the rivets from these 3 locations, 2 here and 1 here. Remove the front plastic OEM rivet as shown in diagram A, and remove the 2 rear plastic rivets as shown in diagram B. All rivets are most easily removed with a 1/4 inch drill bit by drilling them out and pressing them out. Step 3 is installing the rear flare, the most exciting part that allows you to put the rubber under the back of the car. So the first thing we want to do is we want to hold this up and put the first piece in here, push this in. The next thing we do is pull the second one in here, and we push this in right here. The next thing we do is we place the fender flare here and we lightly tap it on with a hammer, rubber hammer, all the way around, to ensure it's on there tight. And the final move is to place the final rivet into the factory OEM hole, push it in, secure it tightly. You now have your fender flare on. Okay, you're halfway there. Now we're going to install the front flare. We're going to prepare the car to accept these flares. Next, we'll be moving these 2 rivets and these 2 rivets. With your 1/4 inch drill bit, remove the 2 upper plastic OEM rivets and the forward 2 OEM rivets. Remove the front OEM 10mm mounting bolt that will be behind the plastic fender liner and require you to pry the liner out a bit to access it. This bolt will not be used to install the flare. Remove the rear 7mm mounting screw and retain it, as it will be used to install the flare. This has to be pried out like this. Step 5, if you're ready for it, is installing the front flare. The crush sleeve is inserted in here and it looks like this. And it allows the crushing of the sleeve when the bolt is tightened up. I'm going to demonstrate that by putting the bolt in here and explaining something that's very, very important, and that is that you do not overcrush the sleeve. This is done by putting a 13mm bolt with an open end on it and a ratchet and tightening clockwise. But do not overcrush it. Then you hold it, you reverse the ratchet, and you back the bolt out along with the tool. And the crush sleeve stays inside. It's very important at the stage of installing the crush sleeve that you do not over crush the sleeve. You start it by tightening it up midway tight. And I want to demonstrate how the sleeve will crush where it's visible for us to see it. The sleeve has been crushed. Down to this size. We included 6 of these crush sleeves in case you make a mistake. 1 extra for each side of your car. Next, what we're going to do on step 5 is we're going to install the plastic OEM receiver back in through the flare and back into the OEM fender skirt behind it. The next part will be to pry out the fender flare, insert the long Allen head screw into the recess in here. The next part is to install the button head screws into the crush sleeves that you previously placed in the car. The final crush sleeve bolt is installed like this. And the next move is to apply pressure as you are tightening the button head screw into the crush sleeve. Next move is to install the OEM screw back into the OEM receiver and use a 7mm socket to tighten this down with. And it pinches the flare between the OEM plastic and the inner fender liner, and you do this to medium tightness. And this solidly mounts the fender flare. Next move is to insert the Allen wrench into the Allen button head that recesses back into the flare and twist it in. And you may have to do this 1 crank at a time. You can also use a socket on this. We've provided the tool with you, and you have to do it 1 crank at a time. This is when I usually always put a socket in. It makes it far easier to sink this bolt into the metal fitting in the front fascia. And it also tightens up the flare and mounts it solidly to the body of the car. Then what we do is we compress the inner fender liner back in, and we'll next replace the plastic rivets into the body. I've removed 1 more of these than is normally necessary. To replace these, you can put them in, insert these with your finger like this, do the same thing here, do the same thing here, and then retrieve a Phillips screwdriver to tighten these down. back to the factory position on the car. Step 6 is what we're all looking for, getting the rubber back on the car and taking it for a ride. Reinstall your rims and tires, factory or aftermarket. Tighten them to factory torque specs. And hit the road. Congratulations, you've got your flares on your Challenger. It won't look like anybody else's at the stoplight. If you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to contact us. We'll be glad to help you out in any way we can. And please subscribe to our channel for future updates.